Welcome back again, coffee beans. This is General Agriculture, Definition of Terms, Part 3.
Dam, a female parent. Damping capacity, it is the ability of a material to absorb or damp vibrations, which is a process of absorbing kinetic energy of vibration owing to hysteresis. Danger, indicates an imminently hazardous situation that, if not avoided, will result in death or serious injury. Dark cutter, color of the lean, muscle, in the carcass has a dark appearance, usually caused by stress to the animal before slaughter. Daylight, colloquid, the extension of a grade line to or above the ground surface. Daytime, the period that starts immediately following the half hour after sunrise and ends immediately a half hour before sunset. Dead air space, space in which there is little or no air movement. Deadborn, stillborn. Deciduous, not persistent, applied to leaves that fall in summer and to calyx and corolla when they fall off before the fruit develops. Deciduous, refers to plants or trees that shed leaves or awns at a particular season or stage. Deciduous forest, a forest composed of trees that shed their leaves at some season of the year. In tropical areas, the trees lose their leaves during the hot season in order to conserve moisture. Deciduous forests produce valuable hardwood timber such as teak and mahogany from the tropics, oak and beech come from the cooler areas. Deciduous tree, is a tree that loses its leaves or needles during the fall and winter. Decomposition, the conversion of organic matter as a result of microbial and/or enzymatic interactions, initial stage in the degradation of an organic substrate, characterized by processes of destabilization of the pre-existing structure. Decreasing block rate, pricing that reflects per unit costs of production and delivery that go down as customers consume more water. Defecation, is the evacuation of fecal material from the rectum. Deficiency, refers to the lack of an adequate amount of a plant nutrient. Deficiency symptom, a result, including slow plant growth, chlorosis, or necrosis, caused by the lack of a plant essential element. Deglutition, the act of swallowing. Dehairing, removal of hair of the carcass. Dehiscence, refers to the opening of valves or anthers, or separation of parts of plants. Dehorning or despudding, the process of removing of horn in young animals. Dehorn, is to remove the horns from cattle, sheep, and goat or to treat young animals so the horn will not develop. Deionized water, common industrial water used to remove contaminants from products and equipment. Demand, the numerical expression of the desire for goods and services associated with an economic standard for acquiring them. Demand curve, is a graphical depiction of the demand-price relationship, showing the buyer's sensitivity to selling prices. Demand waterer, waterer from which livestock receive water by taking a deliberate action to open some type of valve with its mouth. Denitrification, the reduction of oxidized nitrogen compounds to nitrogen gas or nitrous oxide gas. Dent corn, are corn grains which have a dent in the broad end of the grain caused by shrinkage of soft starch between the two layers of corneus and flintische at the side of the endosperm. Denudation, sculpturing of the surface of the land by weathering and erosion, leveling mountains and hills to flat or gently undulating plains. Deposit, material placed in a new position by the activity of humans or natural processes such as wind, water, ice, or gravity. Dermal exposure, an exposure to pesticides by skin contact. Descriptive statistics, deals with the methods of organizing, summarizing, presenting data and their interpretation. Detained meat, meat requiring further examination as declared by a veterinary inspector after veterinary examination. Determinate inflorescence, refers to flowers that arise from the terminal bud and check the growth of the axis. Deterministic process, a process in which a definite law of certainty exists. Devaluation, refers to when peso becomes cheaper compared to foreign currency. Diassortative mating, is a form of non-random mating wherein individuals, which are less phenotypically similar, tend to mate more often together than would be expected by chance. Dicotyledonous plants, are plants producing two cotyledons in each fruit. Distrus, is characterized by the regression of the corpus luteum, progesterone secretion is at basal. Diet, feed ingredients or mixture of ingredients, including water, that are consumed by animals. Digestibility, the quality of being digestible. If a high percentage of a given food taken into the digestive tract is absorbed into the body, that food is said to have high digestibility. Diploid, having 2 sets of chromosomes. Directed application, an application of a chemical to specific areas such as a row, i.e., in furrow, in the row, bed, or base of plants. Directing, is aimed at getting members of the organization to move in the direction that will achieve its objectives. It builds a climate/environment, provides leadership, and arranges opportunity for motivation. Discount rate, refers to the interest that a commercial bank pay when it borrows from a central bank, using government paper or bond as security. The discount rate is one of the tools of monetary policy when central bank authorities are trying to prevent inflation. Disinfection, killing the larger portion of microorganisms in or on a substance with the probability that all pathogenic bacteria are killed by the agent used. Dispersion, process whereby the structure or aggregation of the soil is destroyed so that each particles is separated and behaves as a unit. Disposal site, site where solid waste is finally discharged and deposited. Dissolved oxygen, the molecular oxygen dissolved in water, wastewater, or other liquid, usually expressed in milligrams per liter, parts per million, or present of saturation. Dissolved solids, DS, very small pieces of organic and inorganic material contained in water. Distributors, are those who perform the functions of wholesalers and retailers. Diversified farming, is a type of farming, which engages in the production of several main products/crops. Dividend, is the payment made for the company's stockholders. Dock, 1. To cut off the tail. 2. The remaining portion of the tail of a sheep that has been docked. 3. To reduce or lower in value. Doe, a female goat of any age. Domain, a bundle of clay particles that is only visible in crossed polarized light. Domesticated bird, all birds that have been tamed or trained or adapted to serve man's need. Domestic resource cost, is the cost in domestic currency required to earn a unit of foreign exchange through a proposed budget. Domestic use, the quantity of water used for household purposes such as washing, food preparation, and bathing. Domestic value added, refers to the value added by local or domestic activities to components imported from abroad. Dominance, 1. A situation in which one gene of an allelic pair prevents the phenotypic expression of the other member of the allelic pair. 2. A type of social behavior in which an animal exerts influence over one or more other animals. Dominant, possessing the character which is manifested in the hybrid to the apparent exclusion of the contracted character from the other parent. Dormancy, is an internal condition of a seed or bud that prevents its prompt germinating or sprouting under normal growth conditions. Double crop, 2 different crops grown on the same area in one growing season. Double cross, is the result of mating 2 single crosses, each of which had been produced by crossing 2 distinct inbred linen. Double fertilization, is the process of sexual fertilization in the angiosperms in which one nucleus from the male gametophyte fertilizes the egg nucleus to form the embryo and a second nucleus from the male gametophyte jointly fertilizes 2 polar nuclei to form endosperm. Down feathers, refer to the feathers of the newly foal. Drake, is a breeding male duck. Dressing, preparation of carcass after evisceration, ready for storage or sale. Dressing percentage, the percentage of the live animal weight that becomes the carcass weight at slaughter. It is determined by dividing the carcass weight by the live weight, then multiplying by 100. Drop credit, value of the drop. Drought, a continuous and lengthy period during which no significant precipitation is recorded. Dry cow, female bovine not producing milk, usually prior to calving, freshening. Dry doe, doe without milk. Dry farming, a method of farming in arid and semi-arid areas without using irrigation, the land being treated so as to conserve moisture. The technique consists of cultivating a given area in alternate years, allowing moisture to be stored in the fallow year. Moisture losses are reduced by producing a mulch and removing seeds. This method is usually employed in the drier regions of India, USSR, Canada, and Austria. Dryland farming, farming on a non-irrigated land. Success is based on rainfall, moisture-conserving tillage, and drought-resistant crops. Dryland is a relatively small area in which cattle are confined indefinitely as opposed to being allowed to have free access to pasture. Dry matter, DM, feed after water, moisture, has been removed, 100% dry. Dry sets, small onion bulbs approximately 1.5 to 2 cm in diameter used as planting material. Dry sows, unbred sows which have just been weaned, non-pregnant sows. Dubbing, the removal of the comb or wattle. Duck hen, is a breeding female duck. Dunes, sand dunes, are ridges or small hills of sand which have been piled up by wind action on sea coasts, in deserts, and elsewhere. Dystocia, difficult delivery. Ecology, is the study of the mutual relations between organism and their environment. Economic poison, pesticide, any substance or mixture of substances intended for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating any insects, rodents, nematodes, fungi, or weeds, or any other forms of life declared to be pests. Economics is a special science concerned chiefly with the description and analysis of production, distribution, and consumption. Ecorgun is an area of relatively homogeneous environmental conditions, usually defined by elevation, geology, and soil type. Examples include mountains, piedmont, coastal plain, sandhills and slate belt. Ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. Ecotype is a variety or strains adapted to a particular environment. Edaphology is soil science which is more concerned with the practical utilization of soil, and the principles of maintaining its fertility. Effective, actual rate of land or crop processed in a given time. Effective environmental temperature, an index incorporating factors such as air temperature, humidity, and radiation, which reflects the net total cooling or heating power of the environment. Effectiveness refers to the ability to choose appropriate objectives or the appropriate means for achieving a given objective, doing the right things. Effective precipitation, that portion of total precipitation which becomes available for plant growth. Efficiency of production refers to the relationship of the output to input. Efflorescence, the accumulation of dissolved substance, usually simple salts, at a surface due to evaporation. Egg refers to the female reproductive cell. Emaciation is a wasted condition of the body. Emasculate refers to removing the male reproductive structures. Embargo refers to a complete prohibition against the import or export of a commodity. Embryo sac refers to the sac in the embryo containing the egg cell. Embryo transfer is a technique wherein a young embryo is collected from a donor female parent and then implanted into the uterus of a recipient female parent. Emergence refers to coming off a place, as a seedling from the soil or a flower from a bud. Endocarp refers to the inner layer of pericarp. Endocrine, pertaining to glands that produce secretions that pass directly into the blood instead of into a duct. Hormones are secreted by endocrine glands. Endocrine glands are glands that secrete chemical mediators called hormones that regulate growth and development, metabolism, reproduction, stress responses, body and tissue fluid, and electrolyte balance. Endocrinology is defined as a branch of physiology dealing with the coordination of various body tissues by mediators, hormone, produced by restricted areas of the body, endocrine gland, and transported through the circulatory system to the organ or tissue on which they exert their effects. Endogenous refers to the substances that are internally produced in the body. Endosperm, the starchy interior of a grain. Entomology, the study of insects and their environments. Entozoan, are internal animal parasites. Environment, it is the sum of all the external conditions that may act upon a living organism or community to influence its development or existence. Environmental impact assessment, the critical appraisal of the likely effects of a proposed project, activity, or policy on the environment, both positive and negative. Environmental monitoring, the process of checking, observing, or keeping track of something for a specified period of time or at specified intervals. Enzyme is a complex protein produced in living cells that causes changes in other substances within the body without being changed itself. Organic catalyst. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Epicotyl is the stem of the embryo or young seedling above the cotyledons. Epigeal germination, in dicots, it refers to the germination in which the cotyledons rise above the soil surface. Epizootic, designating a widely diffused disease of animals, which spreads rapidly and affects many individuals of a kind concurrently in any region, thus corresponds to an epidemic in man. Equitation, horsemanship, the art of riding on horseback. Eruction, or eructation, is the elimination of gas by belching. Escherichia coli, E. coli, one of the species of bacteria in the intestinal tract of warm-blooded animals. Essential amino acids are those amino acids which are essential to the animal and must be supplied in the diet because the animal cannot synthesize them at sufficient amount to meet its requirement. Essential elements, the elements carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, potassium, nitrogen, sulfur, calcium, magnesium, potassium, boron, manganese, copper, zinc, molybdenum, chlorine, cobalt, silicon and fluorine. These must be taken up and utilized in sufficient quantities for plants to complete their life cycles. Essential nutrient, a nutrient that cannot be synthesized by the body and must be supplied in the diet. Estimated, the change in value as determined by the difference between purchase price estimated future value, both in constant dollars. Estrogen, any hormone, including estradiol, estriol, and estrone, that causes the female to come physiologically into heat and be receptive to the male. Estrus, an adjective meaning heat, which modifies such words as cycle. Estrus cycle, it is the interval from the beginning of one heat period to the beginning of the next. It is divided into several well-marked phases. Estrus synchronization, controlling the estrus cycle so that a high percentage of the females in the herd express estrus at approximately the same time. Estrus is the period of heat and greatest receptivity to male, rapture of ovarian follicles in most animals. Estuarine inflow, the freshwater input necessary to provide nutrient input, sediment movement, circulation, and maintenance of brackish conditions for estuarine organisms.
Hope it helps. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for the next part. Please subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like this video and comment your suggestion on topic you want to hear. Bye. Roar.